I got it. Okay. Yay! Hey, girl.
Hi.
You look lovely over there in Hawaii
Thank you. You look beautiful today. You're glowing.
and glowing. It's been a whole chapter of me glowing. I don't know what it is. I started working out again. It's like I'm starting to get muscles again. And something about that, as well as, my emotional body has been reactivated. I am feeling many feelings of bliss more than usual. So, yeah, I have a couple of new experiences to attribute to that. So I'm very grateful, thankful that the old
Absolutely.
me in the best way is coming back. So
Nice.
lovely as well. You
That's
look
great.
vibrant. You look very Hawaii friendly.
Yeah, I'm definitely sun-kissed, as they say, boy, because today was had quite the walk and it was definitely sunny. So I may or may not have gotten a little burned. I don't know.
Oh,
Probably.
yes.
Maybe.
But did you have a good
All
walk
good.
though? Does
It's
that
all
does that
good.
hurt right now? Does it hurt?
No,
Okay, that's good.
no.
Great.
It's
Yeah.
like I can tell a little bit, but it don't hurt. No.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I want to ask you, because we were chatting a little bit earlier, about relationship stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and also like being like, really tuning into yourself on when you should stay, when you should go, like how would you classify when it's time to walk away from a relationship, a connection, and in your situation, we'll say hypothetically, necessarily in times in the past when you've been in a relationship and even maybe even your current situation, what would be some markers for you that would say, what, maybe I need to start reevaluating if I'm in the right fit with the person that I'm with.
For me, I would say first and foremost, when they're bringing chaos and not peace,
Okay, that's a good one.
um, and when I have to constantly stress about them, I think that's my biggest thing. I definitely am happier, much happier now. I think I was saying to you earlier, I'm so grateful for my little life and honestly the peace that we've had recently, obviously before I left, because I'm not physically there, but the peace that's been around, it's been really nice and it's just been calm and great. And I would say when there's chaos or when they're not adding to your life or helping you grow.
Hmm.
Um, and I think a big thing that I've learned now is growing together is so much more important. And I actually just made a post about this. Um, toxic relationships can be healed, absolutely, but
Yeah,
both parties have to be able to acknowledge their shadows and be wanting and willing to work through them
willing,
and
right?
acknowledge them.
Yeah,
So,
the
yeah, I think
willing.
that would be the major three things, like not peace, adding chaos. Yeah. What did I say?
Like
Sorry.
like an unwillingness to work, like maybe if they're unwilling,
The
then
unwillingness to work and to see their own shadows
yeah,
and not adding and buttressing me as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that's great, yeah, because I think there can sometimes be times where the ebbs and flows aren't really flowing as much, and sometimes you could feel like, man, I hit a major speed bump, and
Yeah.
and I know, like when we talk about the extreme gene, or I think that's what it was,
Yeah.
right? The extreme gene.
Yeah.
It can be easy to really be all or nothing sometimes when you have that. in a situation. And as soon as you hit, the slightest bit of something that's not ideal, it's like you run for the hills, and I
Absolutely.
like, check, please. I didn't sign up for that. I need to go.
I do that.
I do too.
I do that. Absolutely. Because
Definitely
it's like, it's that fear. It's the fear of,
pain.
well, okay, so they're not doing this. So what if they end up leaving me in the long run? Right. And
Yeah, it's the fear of
it's the let
pain. It's
me
the
get
fear of
them before
losing.
they get me. Absolutely. It's that
Exactly.
pain body.
Yeah. And I don't blame anybody for that. It's like when you've gotten an injury, right? And it's going back to, and you're trying to go back to the gym and you do some of the same movements that got the injury. Your body's like, oh no, no, no. It's that kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like the same, and I think they call it Golgi tendon, but it's that same thing where,
Oh,
yeah, it's that same kind
that
of,
was what I was doing with my injury, actually. I was like, well, yeah, I should be able to do the same things I was doing before. Nope. At least not
and
yet.
yeah, but in the same breath though, as a former rehab personal trainer for 20th Century Fox, back in Cali when I was in my Cali days, right? But the
Mm,
way that you rehab anything is basically doing some of the same movements that would make the same movements that possibly are going to hurt, and that you even possibly, I would say, not any contraindicated, movements, but movements that
right.
are possibly going to hurt that injured area, you're going to have to
Yeah.
do again in order
Yeah.
to make it stronger. So it's the same thing with our hearts. It's
Yes.
like you still have to keep an open heart, and you still will eventually have to take a leap of faith and have
Yep.
faith that somehow, some way it's going to work out differently this time. And there's no guarantee, that it's going to work out differently. So it's always flexing that heart muscle and hoping and praying, that it'll turn out differently, or at least it will be smoother, or at least it'll be somebody that's holding your hand through it because they feel the same way too. That
Yeah.
can cushion whatever unforeseen issues that might occur, or even going separate ways, that is, a thing. But I always feel like being okay with letting go seems to really balance things instead of clutching on too tight. Because I know sometimes I have the inclination to want to do that. And then I'm like, okay, well,
Hmm.
I gotta take a couple steps back because I don't know for sure, like what I'm really trying to get into here. I'm still in the learning phases of who I'm dealing with, and
Absolutely.
life has a way of presenting these situations or moments or
Yeah.
conversations that kind of show, well, maybe I was going a little bit too fast. Maybe I need to rethink this if I'm ready, or if that's, a direction I want to go. And usually it
Hmm.
balances things out when there's a stop sign there. And it's like, oh, wait, pump the brakes, you know?
Right.
What'd you just say? Pump. Yeah, it was like, what did that person just say though? What? Like,
Right.
and it's a trigger
Right.
effect, whatever that was, that, and it could sometimes be something you're not ready for to
Hmm.
embrace, especially when you're first starting out, or even when you're continuing on, and let's say you just came off of a break with your person and they've changed or gotten new ideas about what they want to do, how they
Absolutely.
want the relationship to go, and that could be alarming. Whatever that thing may be that has them changing and wanting to try different things out, and sometimes even a lack of exclusivity, especially when you're actually joining up again from separation and having to go slow again, or when you're starting a new connection and you don't really know where it's going to go, or how fast or how soon it would become an exclusive thing. So I feel like that might be in the collective consciousness right now, is this element of surprise, an element of in between. We're in between worlds. This energy right now feels so much like a limbo, and
Yeah.
that can even translate to housing locations. And if you're going to live in this city or that city, or you're going to live in this home or that home, or you're going to stay where you're at or go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And same thing with job. It could be that same. Well, we see how this job goes, but do I feel like I'm supposed to be here? Why am I feeling a pull to go into a deeper spiritual job than the one I have? Or why am I feeling a pull to take more of a leap of faith and still keep an open heart in this relationship where I typically would run, and be okay with that.
Right.
So it's like a new world is opening up. And that old world is still calling your name back because it's saying, it's comfortable here. You know this world.
Mm-hmm.
Come back. You don't know that world over there. And then our fears could talk to us or our hopes could talk to us. And both usually talk to you. But it's really about whether it's going to be worth taking that leap of faith and going into the unknown. And
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to another reading earlier today, and it was saying, and it was the same inkling that I got in in the midst of wanting to walk away, from a situation. Um,
Yeah.
there was an inkling that I got that said, why does it feel like the energy is saying the more you let go of the fears, the more you let go of all of these rules you have about love, and the more you just kind of go with the flow of things and just be in the moment and have take pleasure in being in the moment and what you have right now, that unknown place will lead to some really great things that you wouldn't have typically expected, holding on to the rules and all of holding on to yourself so tight. So there was
Yeah.
something in that. And then sure enough, I listened to a reading that confirmed that it's saying that the unknown is going to lead you to where you want to go. But you have to let go of your thoughts about love, like your I don't want to say boundaries necessarily, but it can almost be that overcoming your ideas about what boundaries you think you should have as a result of protecting yourself. So sometimes, the boundaries need to be adjusted so
Right.
that you can let more love it. So I don't, and I don't, an example, I guess, of that would be if your boundaries are based on a fear of getting hurt, versus it actually being a real harm to yourself, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. But that would be different for everybody, because I still think that it's
Absolutely.
important to protect your heart too, and
Yeah,
what is
it's like having being able to have boundaries and stay staunch with your boundaries, but trying to not build walls.
around your heart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's not so easily done.
it's not, yeah, and it's not so clear cut when we're talking about emotions and feelings and different people that you might be dealing with where there's different dynamics going on. Not everybody's the same, and then we change and we grow, and then the relationship could be a different one that you might have never, because the person is different.
Mhm.
So and different people you could give leeway to because you're like, but I know this person has a heart, and they're showing me a lot of different stuff that is respecting me more than anybody ever has. So you're starting to trust somebody with your heart, so then the walls start to come down, but
Yeah.
there's still that inner guidance of, but let me be mindful that I still need to have some kind
Yeah.
of cognizance and awareness of what it really means to protect my heart while still keeping an
Absolutely.
open heart. But it is hard because
Absolutely.
when you have the extremes, you want to do all or nothing. And it's like it's keeping a door halfway open and halfway closed. It's like kind of a lot for somebody who's not used to navigating gray areas, like I don't know if I'm good at navigating gray areas other than being in the moment. So the solution would be to hang on to the moments that things are going well and you feel good and then when you're apart from them, reflecting on what really is working and what you feel comfortable with, because it could all be, all lovey-dovey, and the energy could be so light and airy and so fluffy and so warm and fuzzy. But then sometimes when we're alone, we have to be mindful of this too, because sometimes your ego wants to speak to you when you're alone and say, but what about this? And but what about that? But and I think
Right.
there has to be some discernment about what is a true concern versus something from the past coming up to kind of bite you and take you down that road
Right.
again of fearing and karmic cycling. So yeah. So I guess that's where I'm at with this new energy. I'm also in between worlds and like figuring out if I want to, stay in a city that was like at the New York of the West, or stay in the city that I know has so much benevolence. It's like job opportunity could be in that other big city, but my heart, I left my heart back
Have
here.
you checked your lines?
Oh, my cartography. I didn't yet. No, I didn't. I went out. You know what? When I worked today, tell me why it had the energy of the big city, and I got the amount of
Mm,
money I would have gotten while if I had, if I had served the big city. I'm like, and you know what it was? It's
that's great.
exactly the advice that I have just shared that I took, which was instead of being so scheduled and being like, oh, I got to do this and I got to focus on my goal and I got to be, instead of being so orthodox with work, I was like, I talked on the phone with you before I left, and I'm like, oh, well, whenever I leave and
Mm.
whatever this conversation's done, is when I'll go, and my goal
Yeah,
in my head was in my head. And then I ended up having a decent time and I chatted with all my passengers, with the exception of one or two. And the conversation, I mean, it was so playful. It's like, wow, I realize I have such a playful energy with my passengers. And then what that does is it brings in lots of tips. Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's not necessarily my intention. My intention is just to be really in this energy that I have that is being stoked. I will say this, my energy is being
Yeah,
stoked by my hand holding friend, as well as the sunning out that I did earlier and chatting with my hand holding friend. There was something in the energy that charged me and made me feel playful. It made me feel light. And yeah, and that yeah, so that act, the support, as well as talking to you. Also, that some of your jokes were so funny. If a fly farts in Mexico, if a fly farts in Mexico, does that mean you shouldn't go on a trip? That's so funny. That was hilarious. But you brought to mind, like, you brought to mind some good points that whenever anything, the slightest thing goes wrong, it doesn't necessarily mean that to just call the whole thing off, but
correct.
maybe just wait a day or two, sleep on it, wait for things to align a little bit more, and let's keep planning. Let's just keep moving forward. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so you really, your energy that really helped me, and just the laughter of it all was. So then I went out with that kind of energy, and then I thought about your joke again. Oh my God. I chuckled to
Well,
myself.
I'm glad I could be of service. I love that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Because then you know what? My passengers ended up bringing that same funny, playful vibe with them. I got a cupcake from
Yep.
one.
Oh,
It was good. I shared it with my kid. Yeah, it was a carrot cake, and it was a professionally like made one where they put up
ooh,
a paper wrap around it like it was a mini cake, and it was a cream cheese
ooh,
frosting.
ooh, I love carrot cake.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, cream cheese frosting, but carrot cake, cupcake. And the guy was an older black male. And that was another thing. I got, you know, this city doesn't have many, avatars of black people. And I always
Hmm.
find it fascinating whenever I get more than what you would expect in a city that doesn't have them. So I'm like, it doesn't just match, soul to soul and vibe to vibe. I think sometimes it matches what people feel they need. Like if they need to feel
Hmm.
like they have a reflection, right? And it's not just these avatars, but if they feel like that they would be comforted by a similar reflection, I feel sometimes the app pairs me, just like how it does Women Connect. So Lyft does Women Connect, where it pairs women with women, and it makes people feel safer. You understand? So in
Yeah.
certain avatars where you would feel like out of body or whatever, I think the app does pair people with similar likeness at times.
Yeah.
So I felt like it did that tonight, and I got all these playful people and variety. And then the last passenger, I mean, she just had a heart of gold, and she reminded me of my childhood, and she reminded me of the compassion um, to have towards children who are stuck in abusive situations, because she wants to be a lawyer. And I never heard a lawyer say, I really want to help other kids that were like me in foster care where we had it bad. And she said she was so angry because of what was being
Wow.
done to her. And she's like,
Right.
the only thing I really
Right.
want to do is know that I did something in this life to help another kid out, because God didn't give that to you just for you to do nothing with it. I'm like, you saying exactly what I said to another lady in my car 2 weeks ago, because she said she was so
Wow.
tired, she was so traumatized. Her son had been murdered by the cops, innocently, sound like. And she was with a glass of alcohol in my vehicle, saying like I'm an alcoholic now because I can never forget that. I mean, he was my firstborn, and she said how she had been incarcerated before and how her son was incarcerated, her other, because she had two other sons. And it was just a lot of stuff. And I said to her, you know what? But God didn't give you all that for nothing.
Right.
You're
Absolutely.
still here, you're still breathing. And you've got to hang on to the fact that you're still here, you're still breathing, which means you still have a purpose.
Right.
So if there's any way, I said, keep grieving. But if there's any way you can think when you wake up in the morning, I'm here for a reason. And now my son's my angel. Know that you're meant to do something with that. And if people are to see you and
Right.
hear you still asking me to pray for you after all that happened, you're not angry with God. You asked me to pray for you. That
Right.
was deep. And I
Yeah.
did. I sent her stuff over to my aunt who got I mean, they pray 4 hours like every day. I definitely made sure I sent her and everybody that I think needs praying for, I sent over to my aunt as well as I do pray for some of them myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, so so much of life is about understanding the energy that you're in and why, and overcoming these obstacles of, but why me? Or the why me? And oftentimes it is something happened for you and not to you, but it can feel so shitty when you're going
Yeah.
through it. And I get there as well. I do that as well. I feel, and I think we all do. We all have our moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
girl. I mean,
sometimes, and it's like I'm always talking, your life happens through you, not to you. So I'm always, maybe almost to my detriment now, so self-reflective of how and why I'm creating whatever it is that I have in my life and what it's meant for and what it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, which of the seven mirrors is it? And it can be exhausting.
yeah. You know what? Let's go over that a little bit. And I need to see. Yeah, let's go over that. When you talk about the seven mirrors? What exactly are we talking about here with the set with mirrors?
So there are the seven Essene mirrors, and if you're familiar with the Essenes, they were um, mystic Jews in the Bible. Um, and I actually have the PDF, and I'm looking for it on my phone. I have the PDF. Let me pull it up. Oh, I wish I could pull it up on my computer and share it. But essentially, where is it? There it is. So the seven Essene mirrors. The first one is in you, I see me. And that is the unconscious and unaware aspects of myself. The second one is in you, I see my biases and judgments. So that's often in big internal, emotional, and energetic reactions. Third one is in you, I see my lost, forgotten, taken away parts, often a sense of loss or vague emptiness. Four is in you, I see my lost loves and unfinished relations, which can lead to compulsive reception in relationships or addictive behaviors.
Hmm.
Number five is in you, I see my unconscious parental imprints, which is like it's being aware of energetic and behavioral imprints that are how you behave and might not be who you are. Number six is in you, I see my most feared aspects of self-worth, trust, abandonment, and aloneness. That's flash moments leading to life-changing insight. And seven is in you, I see how I am me, which is soul-piercing opportunities to release, and unpacking that can be quite daunting. But the first one is obviously like the most normal, like the most way that most people would assume a mirror would be, which is just in you, I see me. And it's just the hidden aspects of myself that I see in you that we typically talk about people bringing up triggers
Yeah.
and aspects of your shadow that you might not see otherwise unless you had someone there to be like, that was kind of shitty. I don't like that. Right. And
Yeah.
did you know you did that type thing? I think that's actually the biggest or the most common thought about any mirror that you have with someone else. But going through these, it's so interesting. And the Essenes were, again, the mystic Jewish lineage, and they were healers. And um, Dr. Greg Braden speaks about them, and I'll have to get the documentation to like buttress my statements because I don't like not citing stuff. But um, essentially, Jesus and his family were of that lineage of healers and mystics, right? But that's a whole nother topic that a lot of people aren't prepared to talk about. So I'll leave that be. But essentially, this is their understanding of essentially life, really, how we interact with people during our life, period. Um, and I feel like but if you sit there and every moment is an opportunity, right? Every moment, every single moment is an opportunity to look within, right? And you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
You would literally drive yourself nuts saying, okay, well, I have all these seven mirrors. This person that showed up, what is that supposed to be? And
Oh, yeah.
um,
Well,
and it's a
it's a
lot.
balance.
It's a lot.
And it's a balance with everything because I don't, it isn't my feeling that God really wants you to overanalyze every single thing. I feel like in this in between world theme of energy right now, it really feels like you're supposed to really feel things out and become more accustomed to making heart-based decisions and being
Yeah, I
grounded
would
in
agree.
it and not overly so where it's like every little thing you feel you react to, but
Mm-hmm.
noticing that okay, the energy is saying go this way, or maybe I should try this, or even the energy of a phone call right when you're about to go to work, is if it's a divine friend, or divine love, or a divine child,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you give a little extra time and go in the flow of that because that's something that's gonna nurture your soul, so if it's time to take break and do that instead of do rat race stuff, then so be it, especially if
Yeah.
you have that flexibility. But I think the same thing is it can't be so orthodox. Maybe in the time that you're being triggered and you're like, what does this mean? Then you would look at, seven mirrors, and like start evaluating. It's like
Yeah.
when different things would come up organically, maybe that's when I would go to, seven mirrors and try and start to unpack some things and
Right.
start to break down like, okay, well, this is what it seems like this is, and this is what I probably need to work on more. Because I know for me and all of that stuff you said is like, ooh, some of those sound triggering. Like, ooh, your parental imprint. Ooh, past addictive relationships where addictive traits came out, and we all have them. And okay,
Yep.
and we're running out of time. It's fine. We're in 10 minutes, but yeah, but and all of that would make you really dissect yourself and really feel like, man, I really got some work to do, or I'm not really
Right.
that great of a like you would start thinking that maybe possibly some of those things, I'm not really that great of a person as I once thought. I've got this, I got
Right.
regular grace, I've got that, I got biases, I got judgment, but it's something that we all have, and
Absolutely.
even biases could be something that could be good for somebody because you don't always
Yep.
want to be so self-critical that you don't support yourself,
I agree.
so, and same thing with parental imprints. It's like that's something that you can't change how your parent imprinted on you. All you can do is react, respond, or decide how you're going to present yourself as a result of in the best way that you know how, because it's a part of you, like turn some of
Oh,
these.
you're freezing.
Oh no, am I still?
There's a
Oh,
little bit of a lag now, but
oh
okay,
no.
wait, you're back.
I know,
You're
and we're
good.
we're eight. Thank you. But yeah, and some of those imprints that your parents made you, those aren't, things you can change, but we can always, you know, try and morph some of those unhealthy habits and have the self-awareness that, you know what, this isn't something that I want to carry on with the next generation and imprint those unhealthy habits on. So there's always something good that you could do to twist to turn these things around anyway, and even some of
Absolutely.
our judgment, even some of our judgments, is a reflection of how we judge ourselves. um
Right.
and it's also a reflection of our insecurities when we do judge another unrighteously, because there is such a thing as righteous judging as well. And I wouldn't even get
Hmm.
carried away with that, because then that would be an indication that somebody's always too prepared to judge somebody, and that so I mean, there's so many different ways we could be wrong, wrong or need to be doing, being more balanced and doing life better. So you could also get carried away with self-improvement, which could also be, and I figured this out one time, um, was that constantly being obsessed with self-improvement is the inverse mirror that you always feel wrong, that you always feel wrong, so
Mm.
there's an insecurity to always be wrong, which is why you're always overly working on self-improvement. So it's like there's got to be a balance with that, because nobody's always wrong all the time, and how do you have
Right.
self-acceptance if you always how do you have true self-acceptance if you always feel wrong? And that was something that a past soulmate kind of showed me a little bit that I was doing. It's like it's your mind that you always think that something's wrong, and then something wrong will appear because subconsciously you feel you're doing something wrong. And it was the way that my parents imprinted on me, was nitpicking and always, hey, you left a bowl in the basement. If you don't move that, we're gonna do this to you. It's just like, wow, I mean, that
Right.
one little thing, so then I go through life thinking that one little thing is so bad,
Yeah.
so, and it's good that I recognize it, because I have to allow myself to let go more, and then that way I can also let go of others more in a way that's also healthy too, because I don't want to be that person that's every little thing is a problem, but it does make me
Right.
sensitive. So, but I think that those are great mirrors to use when somebody's dissecting the inner work that they need to do, and the stem of where it comes from, and what areas need more healing and love and tenderness and nurturing,
Absolutely.
and yeah. So I think it'd be really good to use in parenting too, like how you reflect all of these things to a child too. Like those seven mirrors can reflect, in your parenting.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, girl. Um, so questions about like how do you let me ask this as something almost somewhat unrelated, but as a means to kind of move ahead from this. How would you want your, as a result of seven mirrors, um, and taking the time to kind of dissect what's going on with you and what you've attracted in the now, how would you want your future to start looking after having done the work while using the seven mirrors, or just basic reflection, or in accounting that you're making heart-based decisions? How would you want your future to look more than your past has, if that makes any sense? And making more heart-based decisions now that because you've gone through, karmic relationships like I have.
Right.
What are you
I think
learning
I
from?
think for me it's just my main thing is putting me first and
Yeah,
basing everything off of how I feel. Um, does this, bring me joy? Does this add? Does it teach me something? Because obviously everything's not going to bring you joy.
yeah,
But it's kind of like, but I also don't have to necessarily engage in things that don't. Um, Obviously, in a romantic relationship, you're going to have the ebb and flow.
yeah,
So I don't expect perfection all the time. But I am seeing already in my current um, timeline is the ability to have open communication and express my feelings and not worry about getting screamed at, which is really nice. And him listening and responding and being like, yeah, I understand where that could come from. Like, okay, and like literally taking things in and responding, like instead of just fighting, you know what I mean? So it's actually it's very nice to have that because I'm also completely okay with where I am and I was completely okay with walking away and I am going to continue to be okay alone or not. You know, do I want a partner? Absolutely, but not at the expense of myself ever again.
I think that's good. Yeah. I feel you there. And man, everything you said is so realistic, especially in the part of, you're okay with being alone or together or whatever, being with yourself, choosing yourself, or, going further, moving forward. And I think that sometimes some of us on the flip side, you can get so comfortable with being alone. you know, it can bring you so much peace, so much comfort,
Yep.
whether you're affectionate with anybody or not, you can actually take so much joy in being affectionate with yourself if you found a way to do that. And there can be so much liberation in that, and then
Mhm.
when it's time to join with another, you know, there can be there can be an
It's
attachment to
tough.
yourself. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, because there can be an attachment to yourself where you don't necessarily, you can live without it. But then your heart could be telling you that you've never had this before, and this could be so much, this could be so much better and so much whatever, so much more fulfilling than just, you sharing you with you. Maybe it is time to share yourself with another. So,
Yeah,
and that's different for everybody, but what we're talking about is balance, and we're talking about shadows. And
hmm,
whenever there's a level of imbalance, usually there's some kind of shadow there because there's something somebody's trying to overcompensate for, and being, and indulging in one thing more than another. It's usually stemming from some kind of fear or insecurity or what have you, or a
right.
past wound or pain. So, yeah, but I think we have just less than 1 minute. Do you have any last thoughts about, anything?
I'm actually completely blank.
No, that's fine. Well, I mean, I'm just glad we were able to chat about,
Absolutely,
shadows and
me too.
relationships and shadows within ourselves when, feeling uncertain about
Hmm.
people, ourselves, any kind of relationship. This is, it's been good to reflect on, solutions,
Absolutely. Growth. All about growth.
growth and solutions. Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
girl, thank you for joining me. It's been fun.
Likewise. Always love to see you. I just
Me
love you to
too.
pieces.
I love you too to pieces. Your jokes hit the spot, man.
Oh, I'm so glad. The fly is farting. Yep.